Hey everybody, welcome to Banfield. I'm Brian Enton in for Ashleigh tonight. Happy Monday. We have been waiting for this day for a long time. It was the first day of testimony in the Sean Diddy Combs federal criminal trial, and boy, did day one deliver. There were 3 bombshells. Right out the gate, disturbing allegations involving Diddy's ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, and what Diddy allegedly forced an escort to do to her. Then the infamous hotel video was played for the jury, and finally testimony from the hotel security officer and the male escort himself. He went into graphic detail about what Diddy forced him to do, all, and this was awkward by the way, all while Diddy's kids sat right in the courtroom. They were right there sitting behind Diddy when all of this testimony came out. We will unpack it with someone who is in court today. We've also got our legal panel. That's coming up in just a little bit. All right, and then we see a lot of disturbing video, but nothing quite like this. 2 little boys, just 9 years old and 7 years old. They were brothers with a loaded gun, waving it around while police officers tried like hell to get them to drop it. The video is just awful. Look at this.
I know. Can you put it down for me?
Just put it down.
You're not going to be in trouble, okay?
So sheriff's deputies in New Mexico, they all had the same thing on their minds. Get the loaded gun before those boys hurt themselves or someone else. Why are we seeing more kids like this, young kids, in serious criminal trouble these days? These kids are less than 10 years old. We've got new details on what happened. And tonight, we are learning who the parents are. And I'll tell you, that helps explain this whole situation. We're diving deep tonight. That's coming up later in the show. And later, a serial killer is just days away from execution, trying out a wild defense in his attempt to avoid lethal injection. Get this, by claiming that he has a rare blood disorder that inspired the vampire myth. And he's taking it all the way up to the Supreme Court. We've got our go-to serial killer expert. She's going to join me live. Can this vampire defense somehow stop the execution just days from now? We're going to dig into it. But of course, we begin tonight in New York City with the first day of testimony in Sean Diddy Combs' federal sex crimes trial. After seating a jury of 8 men and 4 women, the prosecution delivered its opening statement, and they came out swinging. Prosecutor Emily Johnson said the public knew Diddy as a larger-than-life business mogul, but behind the scenes, he was forcing women into sex, using violence and drugs to keep them in line. She said Combs had an inner circle that helped him commit sex crimes, drug crimes, other crimes, things like arson and kidnapping. And then came the graphic details from what we now know are called the freak-offs, where Diddy allegedly recorded sexual encounters that he'd arranged between paid escorts and his alleged victims, including his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. Now, the feds say Diddy once forced an escort to urinate on Cassie. That came out in court today. When it was the defense's turn, they didn't deny Diddy's temper. They said, yes, he can be violent. They admitted that. Remember, that's not what he's on trial for. They said, yes, he's got anger issues, and his actions might warrant domestic violence charges. It was clever that they said that. But trafficking and racketeering, again, that's what the federal case is about. The defense says those don't apply. And all that freak-off sex, according to the defense, they say it was consensual. They said that Diddy's love of baby oil, and this was actually a quote, they said the love of baby oil was not a federal crime. Cassie Ventura did not take the stand today. She is expected to be there tomorrow, and she better soon. This is another very interesting part of all of this. She is about to give birth to her 3rd child any minute now, and she's about to get on the witness stand, about to have a baby. Another twist. 2 witnesses were called today, including a former security officer at the hotel, where Diddy is seen on video attacking Ventura brutally. You remember that video back in 2016. The prosecutors played the video. The witness testified that Diddy tried to pay him off with a giant wad of cash. The day's second witness was a male escort. This is where it really got very juicy, who says that he was paid by Diddy numerous times to have sex with Cassie while Diddy sat there in the corner masturbating and watched. He says he once saw Diddy throw a liquor bottle at Cassie and heard him beating her in another room. In court today for all of this was Lauren Conlin. That's the host of the hugely popular true crime podcast, The Outlier, and Pop Crime TV on YouTube. There she is. There's Lauren. Also joining me now, NewsNation national correspondent Caitlin Becker, who has also been all over the story. I want to start with you, Lauren, though, because I am so intrigued by what it must look like and feel like inside that courthouse. With these federal cases, we don't get to see anything, just those very weird, like, cartoonish sketches. What was it like in court? What's it like with Diddy's family there? Apparently he was blowing kisses at the kids. Sort of describe the mood for us.
Yes, Brian, it's wild. Let me tell you, Diddy did appear nervous at first. He asked the judge for a little bit more water, but then you're right. He blew kisses to his mother in the front row. He seemed to give a thumbs up at one point. At another point in time, he was flipping through a Bible, reading a Bible. And if you'll notice, he's wearing these crew neck sweaters, this light color, which I think is pretty smart as a defendant, but he's kind of reminding me of a Menendez brother here. It's really interesting how defendants are dressed. I always make sure to pay attention to that. And additionally, his mother, Janice Combs, she walked into the lobby this morning looking incredibly somber, like she was dressed for a funeral. All black suit, black bag. It sounds like she got the memo here. But we'll get into it, Brian, I'm sure. But there was a lot of things today in court. I could not believe what I was hearing. I was incredibly uncomfortable. And yeah, in the government's opening statement, Emily Johnson actually said that Cassie did choke on the urine of an escort when Diddy forced this escort to allegedly urinate in her mouth. They did say inner circle numerous times, I believe, really trying to amplify the RICO charges. Diddy couldn't have done all of these crimes without his inner circle, right? Without his bodyguard, without his driver, without his assistant. They talked about alleged kidnappings. That one time he kidnapped his assistant to go and try to find Cassie when he thought Cassie was cheating. I mean, it was wild. I feel like I could go on forever, but I won't.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, the details are gross, and I think it's only going to get worse for you, Lauren, having to be in there. They start talking about the urination. I can only imagine where it's going to go from here. Caitlin, what about Cassie? I mean, a lot of people thought we were going to see Cassie today. You saw the photo. She is 9 months pregnant. Is she expected tomorrow? Sort of what's the plan?
She is, Brian. She's the third witness on the prosecution's witness list. We're going to have about an hour of redirect and recross tomorrow morning with the escort who was on the stand at the end of today. And then Cassie will take the stand. Her testimony is expected to go for the rest of the week. As you can see, she is extremely pregnant. So they're going to be doing her testimony slightly differently. They're going to be doing it in 90-minute increments so that she has breaks in between there to kind of rest, recover, use the bathroom if she needs it. I mean, like you see, she's very, very pregnant there. So they're going to handle it a little bit different. But this was actually a point of contention early on in the proceedings today because they were trying to decide whether or not, because of her condition, if they wanted her to be seated in the witness stand before the jury came in or to have her walk in. And then, the two attorneys on each side were kind of butting heads about that, having questions about whether or not it would be too prejudicial to have her already sitting there or if it would be beneficial to have her walking in, if it would influence the jury, if they saw how pregnant she was when she was walking. So there were some questions about that early on in the proceedings today, Brian, but we do expect to see her tomorrow and her testimony to, like I said, last throughout the week. So they're going to get in. I mean, we thought it was graphic today. It's going to become extremely graphic and extremely hard to hear once she is on that witness stand.
Yeah, and I'm going to get to the fact that she's 9 months pregnant and the impact that could have on the trial in a second with our legal panel. Because think about that. I mean, that's a visual there for the jury. She's going to get up on the stand about to have a baby. There's sympathy there. How does that play? And we're going to get to that in a second. But Caitlin, Cassie's husband, Alex Fine, was he spotted in court today? I mean, has he been in and out of the courtroom?
You know, we saw him today walking in. He sort of slipped in during the lunch break when all of Diddy's kids and his mom were coming in and out of court. You see him walking in there. Our producer, Ava, happened to have been walking in at the exact same time as he was. So we were kind of expecting to maybe see Cassie today, but he went into the courthouse and tried to go into the courtroom proper, to sit in the same room where Diddy is being tried, but was escorted out. And then he actually listened to a good chunk of the proceedings from one of the overflow rooms where a lot of the media has to be. So he was in there today. Like I said, Cassie not in there today, and I don't anticipate us seeing her walk in, Brian. I mean, we have photographers and cameramen all over the outside of this courthouse hoping to see her as she goes in, but because of how pregnant she is, I would not be surprised if they took her in a different entrance so that she didn't have to walk through the throng of media outside.
Lauren, tell me a little more about this male escort, the vibe that you got from him. What does he actually look like? Because all we've seen, again, are the very cartoonish, courtroom sketches. Did you find his testimony believable? Obviously, some of the stuff he said, I mean, the fact that Diddy's in the corner masturbating, he's having sex with Cassie. What did you make of it?
Yes, I found his testimony to be incredibly believable. He seemed genuinely affected by what he saw happen to Cassie. This man truly seemed to care about Cassie. He did have, whatever you want to call it, some kind of relationship with her for probably about a year and a half. And he actually testified that he, at a certain point, wasn't able to perform for Diddy and Cassie. He got erectile dysfunction because of what he saw. He said he saw Diddy at one point after an encounter drag Cassie by the hair from her computer seat all the way back to her bedroom while she was kicking and screaming and crying. And after she apologized and came out, he said that Diddy said, okay, you guys want to continue? And he couldn't perform. And that was it. From there, he could not perform after that. And he saw Diddy abuse Cassie 2 or 3 more times after that as well. And this is a muscular guy. He was 41 years old, a bit smaller, but again, he seemed incredibly affected by what he saw.
And was there, just quickly, Lauren, was there a point where he talked about, because I was trying to follow the blogs, again, it's hard, you were in there, it's difficult for us on the outside. Did he talk about Cassie at one point being under the influence of drugs to the point that she was slumped over, and Diddy still wanted him to have sex with her?
He did talk about that. He said that he showed up one night and Cassie appeared to be high on something and she was slumped over on the couch. But he said that Diddy said, I don't think it's going to happen tonight. I think a lot of things seem to get twisted based on what everyone is hearing. And because we can't have phones or laptops in the courtroom, everyone's taking notes. So yeah, certain things are a little bit different, I guess, on each news outlet. But I specifically noted here, Cassie was too messed up on something that night. So they could not go through with the alleged freak-off.
Yeah, well, listen, I bet your hand is tired from taking notes all day. I know who that is when they don't allow the laptops or the phones in. We're not used to it. Lauren Conlin, appreciate you very much. Caitlin Becker, as always, thank you. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow night. Get some sleep.
Thanks.
Okay, let's get to our panel now. I'm joined now by Trent Copeland, trial lawyer and legal analyst, and also Joe Tacopina, a defense attorney who says he was invited to join Diddy's legal team, but said no. Joe, I want to start with you. Again, you were asked to be on the team. What do you make of this defense that came out today in the openings, basically saying, yes, Diddy is morally wrong, but none of this is actually against the law, it was consensual?
That's what this all comes down to. I mean, this case comes down to one issue at the end of the day, consent. Was this an issue of consent? Was it not? I mean, did these people consent to being there? Look, everyone wanted to be at a Diddy party. Everyone wanted to be part of these Diddy parties and be in his orbit when he was Diddy. Now, when someone got paid a lot of money, and now there's a federal investigation, everyone is looking to get a payday. All of a sudden, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, how many ever years ago it was, a decade ago, they weren't consenting. They realize now it wasn't consensual. I have a hard time with that. I'm not saying this case is a walk in the park, but I've read articles here about how Diddy is cooked, and this case is a fait accompli. Not by a long shot. This case will come down to an issue of consent, and I got to tell you, I know for a fact, and you mentioned I dabbled a little bit in deciding whether I was going to join the team or not. I know for a fact they have text messages that will refute a lot of these issues that the prosecution's holding out as far as these people not consenting. I know they do, and I know there's going to be text messages that will refute the issue, the fact that people saying, "Oh, I didn't consent," or "I didn't want to be there." Those messages, unless an alien sort of invaded their body or took their phone and created those text messages, are not going to be helpful to the credibility of these witnesses.
So, Joe, they asked you to be on the team. I'm just curious why. I mean, it's a big case. I think it'd be pretty exciting. Why did you decide not to do it?
There's a lot of reasons. I'm not going to get into that now. I mean, I've discussed it multiple times, but it was a lot of reasons, personal reasons, timing reasons. I just got off a big trial in LA for 6 weeks with ASAP, Rocky, and just there was a whole host of things. A lot of it was a timing issue. A lot of it was business decision, and that's it. I said nothing against Diddy. I met with him several times. I think he has a very defensible case, a very tribal case. When you see in federal court, and I've been in federal court hundreds and hundreds of times, an opening statement that talks about urination and baby oil in the prosecution's opening statement as being the crux of the opening statement. I mean, I just never thought I'd see that day. And that's what we had today. We had an opening statement and the evidence in large part talking about urination, sex, not rape, but sex, baby oil, escorts. It's just things that you would never imagine hearing in a United States District Court. That's what we heard today. And that was a large part of the testimony of the day.
Well, I remember, Joe, when the charging documents first came out, when all this went down, it was all about the baby oil. Remember, they talked about, I forget, it was like hundreds or thousands of bottles of baby. I mean, that was a big part of this. Yeah, that was a big part of this from the beginning. Trent, I want to go to you. Joe talked about the fact that it was a female prosecutor who gave the openings, but it was also a female defense attorney, Tenny Garagos. I'm assuming, Trent, that's by design.
Of course, it's by design. The reality is this is a case about sexual assault, sexual violence, and having a woman, whether you're the prosecutor or the defense, speaking first to the jury conveys to them a sense of understanding, a sense of compassion, a sense of, here's a woman, but the prosecutor side, who's telling the story about a woman or women who've potentially been abused. And from the defense perspective, their view is if we put a woman up front and center and she tells the story for Diddy, she operates as his attorney, as his spokesperson, as his mouthpiece, then that really will more likely than not resonate to the jury in a way that having a man say the same thing wouldn't. And so look, and by the way, always good to see my friend Joe, but Joe says he's surprised about what he heard in this case. The reality is I'm surprised too, everyone is, but we shouldn't be, because it's a case about a criminal enterprise dedicated towards sex and appealing to the very basic sexual appetites of Diddy. And there's no way we're going to have this trial, and there's no way we're going to not hear about baby oil. There's no way we're not going to hear about all of the abuse and the urination if we don't talk about those things. So, yeah, we're going to see this. This may be one of one, but it's all important. It's all necessary. And I don't regard what the prosecutors did today as being extra, as being surplusage. I think what they did today was paint the picture exactly what this case is and what it's all about in all of its graphic detail.
Oh, I agree with that, by the way.
Tomorrow,
Trent's right on. I agree with that. I just am still shocked that this case is in a federal district court. I agree with, based on this case, they have to say that stuff. But I still can't believe this is a racketeering case in the United States District Court. That's what I can't believe.
Totally.
Tomorrow, Joe's going to be a big day, obviously, with Cassie set to take the stand. 9 months pregnant. You saw the photo. They're already making accommodations. She may take a break every 30 minutes or so. If you're Diddy's defense attorney, I mean, I mean, that can't be good for them. I mean, she obviously is going to come across, I would think, more sympathetic. You almost feel sorry for her having to do this while she's that pregnant. I mean, how does that play into the defense strategy, Joe?
It's a fact. It's a fact she's pregnant. But, it was Cassie who started all this. Let's remind the jury of that. I mean, it was Cassie who asked for $30 million for a manuscript of a book that she was going to write. And if she didn't get $30 million for her manuscript, she was going to print the book. And it was Cassie who then said, well, if you don't give me the money for the book, I am going to sue you unless you give me $30 million. And so it was Cassie who never went to the police. But made all these demands. And then when she didn't get what she wanted, she sued and then got $20 million. Still have not yet gone to the police at that point. So, I think you could remove the veneer of being a nice pregnant lady. I'm not saying she's not a nice lady. I don't know her at all. She could be a very nice lady. And of course, anyone who's pregnant has a sympathetic, sort of veneer on them, right? But let's be real. She was a part of this, and she enjoyed and reaped the benefits of it. I'm not saying the disgusting things he did to her are excusable. If I were the defense, I would be more aggressive condemning the acts of Combs against her, the domestic violence acts against her, than the prosecution is. I would be more aggressive, but that is not what this case is about. This is not a racketeering case, not sex trafficking. That is a domestic violence case. And it's a bad and despicable act, but it's not sex trafficking. It's not racketeering. And they have to be very upfront with that and show that that's trying to replace the void where the evidence should be. They're using that tape to sort of replace the void where the evidence should be by appealing to emotions. So that tape is horrific. It's horrific. And so I don't know. I understand she's pregnant and all that stuff. The jurors are smart. They're going to listen to, they're going to feel sympathetic for her, but at the end of the day, they're going to value her credibility. And when the defense shows her a text message the day after an incident where she's now going to say, I didn't want to be there. I hated being there. He forced me to be there. And the day after, she sends a text message contemporaneously saying, thank you for last night. It was amazing. You're an amazing man. It's going to be tough for her to explain that, I think.
But do you think, Trent, that the jury will see through that in the sense that relationships are complicated, abusive relationships are complicated? I think most people know that. You can be abused and then the next second be sending a text that says, I love you because you like the rich lifestyle, but you're also being abused.
No, I think that's right. And two things can both be true at the same time. Look, here's the first thing. Cassie Ventura walking into that courtroom pregnant and then testifying about a previous trauma, while it doesn't prove anything, and Joe's correct about that, it is not a factual piece of evidence, her simply walking into the courtroom, but optics matter. Optics matter, Brian. And when she walks in that courtroom with all her vulnerabilities as a very, very pregnant woman, talking very emotionally about what was a past trauma, believe me, it will matter to the jury. And by the way, the video, and Joe's right, the video again, this isn't a case about domestic violence. This isn't a case about what happened in that horrific video. What this is about power, control, and abuse, and that's what the video shows, and the video demonstrates that this wasn't just an isolated incident, it was an ongoing issue for Diddy.
Yeah, what a day. It's only day one. I mean, I can't even imagine what tomorrow's going to bring. Joe Tacopina, Trent Copeland, appreciate you both coming on tonight. Thank you so much.
Good seeing you, Trent.
Okay, still to come, the viral video. Oh my gosh, if you were watching Friday night, it made us all stop in our tracks, really hold our breath. The two little boys, look at this, two little boys, like under 10 years old. They've got their little shirts on with a loaded gun, surrounded by cops with their weapons out too. The video, very disturbing. They really are kids, just 7 and 9 years old. We've got an update on where those boys are tonight. There's a significant development since last week. We've got to ask, what is going on with little kids committing these crimes? Is there a simple answer? All the developments on the case coming up. So we seriously cannot stop talking about this shocking incident that happened in New Mexico, and it was all captured on police cameras. They even had a drone up. There were deputies facing down two little boys who were holding and waving and pointing a loaded gun. This is the drone. See the kids holding the gun right there that they had up right there. A lot of you can't talk about it either. The video went viral over the weekend after Ashleigh played the whole frightening video Friday. The two brothers in New Mexico, the younger one is just 7 years old, and his big brother, who you see there, is 9 years old. They're in their Minecraft and their Star Wars T-shirts, passing the loaded gun between them. Very tense, very dangerous situation, hard for the police. They didn't know where the boys got the gun or what they were doing with it. They just wanted the kids to drop it before they hurt themselves or someone else. Listen to this.
He's not gonna shoot you, babe. Put it down. Okay, he's gonna put it down now. He's facing it down. Now you put the gun down. Okay? Come on, let's listen, okay, babe? We don't want to hurt you, honey.
The sooner you put that down, the sooner we can take you home. We can go see your mom.
This isn't a game no more. We're not playing a game right now. This is serious. I need you to put that down.
You got to think what was going through those cops' minds. They didn't want to have to shoot those little kids. After a few minutes of the boys not complying and still waving the gun around, it was loaded, deputies made the choice to end the standoff by firing a non-lethal crowd control beanbag. They fired it very close to the kids to startle them. Take a look.
40, 40, 40. Drop it! Drop it! Drop it, Sean! Load another one. Drop it now. Drop it, both of you.
I don't even have the gun. I don't have the gun.
Get over here.
Oh my gosh. Well, there's good news and bad news from the sheriff's office in Albuquerque tonight. The good news is that 7-year-old, the boy there, the 7-year-old, he's back home with his family. Tonight, we broke the news on Friday that he was missing. At one point, he was missing. He was believed to have run away from home. He's back home. They even had a little missing flyer. The bad news, the challenges facing those two boys, they are steep. The father, no shock here, the father is in jail. Police know their address very well, they say, having been to the call to the home more than 50 times. And at least for now, there's not much authorities in New Mexico can do to improve a clearly troubled home situation that has a lot of layers to it, we're told. I want to welcome back to the program Dr. John Duffy. He is a clinical psychologist whom we often call to help us understand what makes young people tick. One of Dr. Duffy's books on parenting that focuses on kids who are struggling is called Rescuing Our Sons, 8 Solutions to Our Crisis of Disaffected Teen Boys. Thank you for coming back, Dr. Duffy. These aren't teens yet, but I mean, you saw the video. You watch it wondering, how does a 7-year-old act out like this?
Yeah, it is alarming, Brian. I've watched it a number of times, and I still, my jaw drops. And a lot of it has to do with the environment that this boy has grown up in. Like you were saying just a moment ago, parents have to be so on their toes with kids now. It is such a very different world than it was when most of us were growing up. So we've got to really pay attention to all the stimuli that our kids are taking in, not just from the internet, not just from kids in the outside world, but from us, from their parents, because it's a whole myriad of circumstances that come together that drive an episode like this to be so almost tragic, but pretty devastating nonetheless.
Yeah, and there's a big problem, Dr. Duffy, in Albuquerque in particular. We've done stories on NewsNation about youth crime being on the rise in a big way. But, I mean, the kids got the gun somewhere. I mean, the 7-year-old got the gun. Shouldn't they be charging the parents or charging someone?
In my opinion, absolutely. You know, I think parents have to be on top of health and safety of their kids and the people around their kids first and foremost. So the idea of ignoring this, especially in Albuquerque, I've seen a number of the stories on NewsNation and across the nation where, you know, the gun violence it continues to be rampant among younger and younger kids, mostly boys. We've got to stay on top of that issue. And if we don't hold parents accountable, then I think we have a bit of a free-for-all on our hands. And I don't know what this looks like a year, 2, 5 years down the road, Brian, if somebody isn't held specifically accountable for these types of episodes because they are terribly dangerous. And in this circumstance, it's just the vigilance of the police, I think, that kept these boys alive, if nothing else.
Yeah, and I was just thinking to myself, I mean, if they were adults, and we've seen this happen before, if you're an adult and you're waving a loaded gun around, you're probably going to get shot by the cops. So they used incredible discretion. I mean, obviously, they don't want to shoot a little boy, put them in a terrible situation. Dr. John Duffy, appreciate you very much for coming on tonight. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Brian.
And Dr. Duffy's book, again, Rescuing Our Sons, 8 Solutions to Our Crisis of Disaffected Teen Boys. I think those boys' families probably need to read Dr. Duffy's book. All right, coming up, criminals are full of excuses from "you've got the wrong guy" to "that isn't mine" felons. They'll say almost anything to avoid landing behind bars, but we have got a new one for you. There is a convicted serial killer trying to avoid execution this week by claiming he has the same disease that inspired the myth of vampires. We've got the full story after the break. All right, so if you've ever seen Dracula or any of those Twilight movies, you know that vampires are tough to kill. So we were a little surprised to see that a convicted serial killer is trying to escape execution by claiming that he has the same disease that may have inspired the vampire myth. Attorneys for Glenn Rogers are hoping they can hold off his execution, which is set for this Thursday, with an appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. They say that Rogers has porphyria. It's a rare blood disease that can cause sensitivity to sunlight, red urine, and even changes to the gum line that make a person's teeth look like fangs. It's apparently a real thing. Rogers' attorneys argue that his looming lethal injection could interact with the disease to cause, quote, needless pain and suffering. But Rogers has had no problem causing needless pain and suffering to others. He's on death row in Florida for the 1995 murder of Tina Marie Cribbs, a redheaded 34-year-old mother of 2, after drinks at a Tampa area bar. It's back in November 1995. Rogers asked Cribbs for a ride back to his motel. Her body was found in Rogers' motel room 2 days later, dead from multiple stab wounds. Her car was missing from the parking lot, and Rogers landed himself on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. A few days later, he was arrested after being spotted in Kentucky behind the wheel of Cribbs' car. After his arrest, Rogers admitted to killing more than 70 people. Wow. And while he later said he was joking, he became known as the cross-country killer. And authorities, they were able to link him to 4 more murders. One victim was a 71-year-old man whom Rogers briefly lived with. The others were women. And all 3 of them, by the way, were redheads, just like Cribbs himself. But the only other murder Rogers was convicted of was that of Sandra Gallagher, a 33-year-old mother of 3 who worked at a Los Angeles bar Rogers frequented. He was sentenced to death there, too, but Florida sentenced him first. And that's the sentence that will be carried out this week, Thursday, barring an unexpected delay. Joining me now is someone who knows the subject better than anyone, forensic psychologist and author of The Serial Killer's Apprentice, Dr. Catherine Ramsland. Dr. Ramsland, it's always nice to see you. What do you make of this theory that he has this rare blood disease? The lawyer is now trying to get the execution stopped. I mean, is it possible he actually has it, or do you think this is just a way he's trying to avoid the death penalty?
Well, he was diagnosed with it in the 1980s during one of his many prison stints. So he has it, but it's not really a vampire disease. It is believed to have been an illness that gave rise to some of the vampire myths, but that's just a researcher's notion. We don't really know if it did. But so he does have it. He did know he had it when he was committing these murders. So I thought that was kind of interesting that he 3 of the murders, he stabbed them, and it was quite bloody, and he cleaned the blood off. So clearly something was going on about blood with him.
And Dr. Ramsland, by the way, for people who don't know this, actually went undercover in the vampire culture back in the day. So not only is she a serial killer expert, she's an expert on vampires too. When he said that he killed 70 people, and then apparently said that wasn't true. I mean, do you think that there's more murders out there, that haven't been linked to him at this point?
Well, after he killed the second of the known murders, we know about 4 women and one male. After he killed the second person, he told somebody this was number 8. So probably there are more. He told another person he had killed 55. He told another person he had killed 70 and then retracted that, said he hadn't killed anybody, but we definitely know that he did. So it's hard to say how many, but it's likely there are more than 5.
Did he ever say, Dr. Ramsland, of anything? Did he like have an infatuation with redheads? Why they were all redheads?
Well, his mother was a redhead, and he had a sort of love-hate relationship with her. She was abusive. He was living with Mark Peters, his first victim, because she wouldn't let him live with her. She had once tried drowning him when he was a boy in the bathtub. And interestingly, 2 of his victims were murdered in a bathtub. So I think that there was something about the red hair. He was angry at his mother. These women, usually what it appears is that he got angry at them. He would say things like, I always get what I want. And if any woman didn't go with it, then he would get angry at them. But he was also in it for the money. He stole things. He stole money. He stole watches. He stole jewelry, a car, a coin collection. So he was enriching himself from these women as well.
Interesting. Well, I guess we'll see what happens. The execution is set for Thursday in Florida. They're trying to get up to the Supreme Court. So we'll follow it. Dr. Ramsland, thank you for coming on tonight. We appreciate it.
I appreciate being here. Thank you.
And Dr. Ramsland's book, of course, The Serial Killer's Apprentice. It is out right now. Okay, coming up, the lawyer for a man put to death by firing squad last month in South Carolina is calling the execution botched. Now we have the autopsy report. You can judge for yourself. It's a little difficult to read, but interesting nonetheless. That's next. So the high-profile murder trial of Bryan Kohberger and his defense team's efforts to have the death penalty tossed if he's convicted have had us all taking a hard look at capital punishment. Early this year, the Idaho legislature passed a bill to replace lethal injection with a firing squad now as the primary way to get executed there. The governor signed it into law, though it doesn't take effect until July of next year. And in the meantime, the Idaho Statesman is reporting that Idaho's entire supply of hard-to-find lethal injection drugs, they've now expired. $200,000 worth of taxpayer drugs, basically down the drain. Proponents of firing squad say it's a faster, more reliable, and a less painful way to die. This is one of the firing squad rooms that you see right here, but a case in South Carolina, it might make you wonder about it. Mikkel Mahdi, a convicted spree killer who was sentenced to death for the murder of a cop, was executed by firing squad last month, but his attorney, who watched it happen, says it was botched. He says Mahdi cried out, started breathing heavily, groaned multiple times before he finally died. The lawyer hired an independent pathologist to review the state's autopsy report and found that none of the rounds hit Mahdi's heart directly, which they're supposed to. One round might have missed the heart entirely, they say. Now, there were only 2 apparent wounds from 3 rifle shots, and Mahdi's heart kept on beating for almost another minute while he was likely still conscious. Now, we reached out to the South Carolina Department of Corrections today, and they note that the autopsy states it, quote, believed that gunshot wound labeled A represents 2 gunshot wound pathways. In other words, 2 rifle rounds caused the exact same hole in the convict's chest. A pathologist who reviewed the report for NPR says the odds of that are pretty minuscule. Mahdi's lawyer says, and I quote, McCall suffered an excruciating death. We don't know what went wrong, but nothing about his execution was humane. The implications are horrifying for anyone facing the same choice. South Carolina's refusal to acknowledge their failures with executions cannot continue. So it'll be interesting to see, at South Carolina, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out now in Idaho, now that all the drugs have expired. Okay, one thing you wouldn't expect is a Mother's Day message from one of the Menendez brothers. It actually happened. What did Lyle Menendez mean by his cryptic Mother's Day message, and could it affect his resentencing chances? A big hearing tomorrow. That story is next. Lyle and Eric Menendez will be back in court tomorrow with their best chance ever of winning their release. This has been a long journey. The brothers' lawyers are trying to get their sentences reduced from life without parole to 50 years to life, and that would make them eligible for parole as soon as next month. Lyle and Eric have spent about 35 years in prison for the 1989 killing of their parents. The brothers' attorneys have introduced new evidence that the murders were committed after years of sexual abuse by their father. The state parole boards have already scheduled separate hearings on June 13th, and also a risk assessment report on the brothers is reportedly almost now complete. The Los Angeles District Attorney, Nathan Hochman, he has been very vocal that he is against their release. And it's unclear whether the brothers will speak at any of the hearings, but Lyle released a message on social media yesterday for Mother's Day. I want to read you this. It says, "To all those who are in pain today for whatever reason, your mother passed away, you never knew your mom, your mother was abusive, and you struggle with celebrating her. You are estranged from your mother, you wanted to be a mom but aren't, your child passed away, you are estranged from your child, or any other reason related to this day." He said, "We see you." It was an unusual message considering that Lyle and his brother were convicted of killing their mother. We're going to have full coverage on their resentencing hearing on tomorrow's show. And of course, the big question that everybody's going to be watching is he released that statement about Mother's Day, but is he actually going to take the stand? Are we going to hear from them at the hearing? We may find out tomorrow. Also, big day tomorrow with the Diddy trial. So we'll have all the coverage. Thanks for joining us tonight. Cuomo starts right now.